So, I pulled Friday the 13th for Camp Essie Library. I hated it. I had a terrible time, thanks. I hate horror movies. Anyway, I had some thoughts about Pamela Voorhees. Spoilers for this 40-year-old movie. She's the killer. Anyway, I had some logistical questions. Let me walk you through Pam Voorhees' day. She starts her day creeping around in the woods around Camp Crystal Lake. Now, to be fair, we don't know for sure that this shot is from her perspective, but the music and editing definitely implies that. After this, she goes to her Jeep, which is, I assume, parked somewhere hidden nearby, but not near enough to be heard by any of the kids. She drives up the road and then drives back down the road so she can pick up Annie. Steve did mention that there was a cook coming, so I suppose she wanted to pick her off before she got a chance to arrive. She drives Annie past the road to the lake with an unknown destination in mind, but then Annie jumps out and she tracks her through the woods and slits her throat. At this point, she appears to be wearing a big reddish-orange tweed jacket. After killing Annie, she then spends what I have to assume is at least half an hour carrying or dragging Annie back to her car to put her in the passenger seat. She then drives back to her secret parking spot and spends the rest of the afternoon watching the teens mess around in the lake, presumably seething about the mockery they're making of her dead son. Around about sunset, she sets up camp in one of the cabins, now wearing what appears to be a purple silk nightgown, which she uses to lure Ned into the cabin and slit his throat. No great loss there, he's a racist, misogynist incel. She hides Ned on the top bunk of the bed in such a way that he can't be seen or somehow smelled by anyone else in the cabin. Then she hides under the bed where she stays for at least the next 2 hours. She sits under there completely silently as Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend fuck. Let's give Kevin Bacon some credit and say this lasts about 40 minutes. I don't know if that's giving him credit or not. I have no idea how long sex is supposed to last. She waits for Marcy to leave and then shoves an arrow through the bed and through Kevin Bacon's neck, which I assume was the plan the whole time. She then runs through a pouring rainstorm with no flashlight to kill Marcy in the bathrooms with an axe. She hides Marcy in one of the shower stalls, but she keeps the axe for later. Once again, she uses her magic powers to make it so that Brenda somehow can't smell the dead body in the room right next to her. She sets up the fog lights at the archery range and then stalks around in the pouring rain for a while until Brenda is done with her nightly reading, at which point she lures Brenda out to the archery range where she then shines the lights on Brenda for dramatic effect before killing her. I assume with an arrow, but we don't see this one on screen. While the last 2 teens remain completely oblivious to all of this, she takes the axe she used to kill Marcy and then leaves it on Brenda's bed. During this time, she also cuts the phone lines and sabotages Kevin Bacon's truck. In a situation that's nothing but red flags, Alice and Bill decide to go back to the main cabin and sleep. At this point, Steve is heading back to camp, and somehow knowing that maybe she's hacked into the police radio, Pam sits in wait at the Camp Crystal Lake sign with a poncho and a flashlight to stab Steve as soon as he arrives. Then she spends at least an hour rigging up this device where his dead body will drop from a tree if anyone gets close. I'm assuming either a pressure plate or a motion sensor. I would question how she has the strength to do all of this, but I'm assuming she's been granted supernatural strength by the ghost of her dead son. Now she cuts the power. Bill and Alice, being total morons, decide to split up again, and Bill goes on his own to repair the generator. Pam either lets him finish or slits his throat, pins him to the back of the door with arrows, and then finishes the repairs herself to lure Alice out to the generator. Alice now finally knows there's a serial killer, so she runs back to the cabin to barricade herself in, but just to scare her, Pam uses her dead son powers to chuck Brenda's body through the kitchen window. She then runs back to her car, dries herself off, and gets changed into her kindly old lady costume to lure Alice into a false sense of security for some reason. She's killed every other person in the movie without saying a word. She utterly fails to kill Alice for what feels like hours, having used up all of her dead son powers to make it this far, and finally ends her night being beheaded with a machete. Props to you, Mrs. Voorhees. I have absolutely no idea how you did all of this shit in one night, but I respect the hustle, I guess. Sucks about the beheading, I guess, but you should have used your dead son powers for good instead of evil. In conclusion, fuck them kids. I don't understand this genre at all.